And we're live. We're back. Got some more
Hey, everybody.
information, more case studies, the usual, but also we're going to go more into the creative side of it because I mean, let's be honest, at the end of the day, you can have the best traffic in the world, but if your offer sucks, your
Yeah,
messaging sucks, or your creative just sucks, then no amount of traffic is going to solve that issue. So I like to think of it, and actually did a post today about it, where traffic is, you want to get traffic right so the feedback loop on creative is as accurate as possible versus just cycling
hmm
warm traffic again and again and again. So I know
yeah,
John's got some stuff that he wants to talk about, and some awesome case studies that have dropped. I think you said NCAC down by a huge amount. So really
yeah,
excited to see
yeah.
that.
NCAC went down. Yeah, we got a whole bunch of stuff that basically. That's what I'm actually just kind of getting set up here right now. If y'all forgive my.
If you don't know what NCAC is, if you're new here, it's just cost per acquired new customer for the entire business. So you're paying less per new customers, means you're obviously more efficient. Pretty
Yep,
straightforward there.
very, very straightforward. All right, let's do this. Let me share screen. Okie dokie. So this is actually really a kind of a cool case study. This actually is about a company that sells hats. We haven't really featured them much. I've been running their Google ads for some time, and now I took over their Meta. Normally, rather than going through and saying this is what we did and that's what we did and everything yada yada yada, all you have to know is that everything is looking 35% better since we've done this. Good. We have basically, more search, more email, more affiliate, more social, 50%, 7%, yada, yada, yada. Like everything is looking better. Conversion rates up 11%, sessions over times up 18. Now, how did we do this? When we're looking at the structure and we're looking at how the algorithm is going to work, we have to obviously look at creative. Now, Google Ads is going to be a part of this. The only issue that I have with Google Ads for the most part is that it becomes it looks very good, even though we don't really do much with that channel for the short term. So what I mean by that is through all of my changes at the top line in Meta only, we have a 12% increase in costs and a 15% increase in new customer purchases. Now, I have not done anything inside of Google since we launched the new Meta campaigns. This is 100% just kind of like holding tight. I do this for a reason. When we talk about creative, yes, creative is a very important metric or a very important thing to review, watch, consider, etc. The the creative is going to actually drive all of your channels. Even TikTok that doesn't have the same creative is going to remarket the people from Meta with different creative. So you have to think about it like, okay, if we're going to be using this creative in this channel, where else is it going to affect? And do I need to make any other changes on any other channels, or will it have a good effect overall without me having to force it? So
Quick point.
the reason why
Quick
I'd like to do it that way is that for that reason. Go ahead.
quick point on that. It's isn't in every scenario. It's just in the scenarios that we have seen be most common. Meta is the driver of new customers if the creative is decent or good versus that of Google.
Right. Yeah.
And then
So
you
Meta
test that with
Creative.
backend metrics.
Yeah, most of the time your Meta Creative is driving the most amount of new visits. So we're thinking about creative. We have to take a step back and think about like, well, who is seeing the creative and why, and what are those people doing after that? It's not just isolated to Meta or isolated to Google. It's you have to think about it as like these are people that are in your on your site right now. Where they come from, we don't know. They're on our site though. What was the last thing that they did? Well, they did come from the site from Meta last. That was the last thing that they did, but I don't know what the first thing they did. They could come from Google. Okay, well, whatever. If we're looking at the this date range here in terms of the Yellow Leaf Hammock Company, and when we're looking at here, we already know, and then we looked at this last week, that by changing Meta's structure around, sorry, this is the uh yeah, 6 of the 23rd. By changing meta structure around here, this is the full before and after. We were able to save basically 30% of our cost and increase our media efficiency ratio by 41%. Google, though, changed 5% less spend, 22% more revenue, and we did make a change in Google. Did that with 56% less new visits. So why are we kind of talking about this? Well, it was because 2 weeks in after launching just new creative on Meta. That's the only thing. And we're talking about the creative as such a importance because we only changed that channel for this result between these 3 channels. So creative, period. Creative was the only thing that we changed for this top line result. So why do we talk about that? Well, you can see that how much creative has with Google. Google's going to be massively changed by uploading the creative. Now, the reason why that's most important, or most often most important, is if you go into the back end of a site and you say, okay, well, what's my traffic? So I have 7,600 people from Facebook. I have 41,000 people from direct. I have 4,600 people from Instagram. I have 763 from Pinterest. I don't get any from YouTube. I got 20. I got 20 from YouTube total. So, when we're looking at the majority of spend, it says, well, if the majority of the traffic that hits my site is coming from a particular network, wouldn't that mean that more of everything across all networks be affected? And the answer is yes, that's true. So that's sort of how we have to look at this here. Let me just try to get logged into the right one. Sorry, I have to log in twice.
Could you say that one more time?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get a visualization for everyone to see. Because it helps. Let me do this here. So typically what has the highest amount of traffic, new visits to your site, that is the channel that's most important to your company. And that's sometimes a way that we don't necessarily think about things. And what I'm going to try to go and show you all next, as soon as this stupid thing loads. Let me just pause my camera. Might make this faster. Let me refresh here.
We had to watch the North Beam universe.
Watch the Saturn rings spin for no reason.
Dang, it is slow. What the heck?
Wow.
I've never seen this slow
forever. I know.
Oh, baked us out.
Wait. There we are. Okay. This needed a minute. The rocket ship to Saturn is slow. Okay. Let's look only here. Okay. You got 82,000 total visits. That's everybody that's new. Which one of these do you think had the most effect on that?
I mean, the 65,000 looks pretty crazy from a ratio perspective.
Nah, that's only got a 1.46 ROAS. There's something else out there, Caden. You're wrong. So it can't be the 65,000. Do you think it's a 6? The 6,000 of the 82, that's what's doing everything?
So it's got to be that.
Right. What's sad is we can joke about how ridiculous that is, like ha ha ha, of course, but we don't necessarily think about that when we're looking this view. You're not hyper focusing over here.
I do want
this is creative. There you go.
I do want to point out though, like kind of devil's advocate on this, is that Google is higher intent, so there is a potential higher ratio if those are all new. Let's just assume that they're all new and there's no overlap. Potentially, out of the 6,000, more can have higher demand than the 65,000, but yeah, that wouldn't affect top line nearly as much.
I could challenge you there actually too. This is what's kind of cool. This is what took me a little while to think about, and so tell me if you come to the same conclusion. I'm just curious now. This right here, you have your new visits and visits. You have 723 and 4,000, but this one only took 6,300. This one took 65,000. So 10 times the amount of traffic for not 10 times the amount of result. Otherwise, that'd be 7,200, not 4,000. So now that we know that there's obviously a discrepancy there, could it be that out of the 6,300 new and 9,300 all, could there be 723 that's maybe more like 623 and 100 here and here?
Potentially, based on the ratio that, yeah.
I mean, potentially. Could it be possible that the returning visits that are just coming back and Google the brand name might be more valuable than the high intent to new visits?
Probably.
It could be.
I mean, that is the whole point of Google in a sense.
Right. And now, is it possible that the 86,000 here, do you think that a lot of them are the, 96,000, or do we think that's more of the 65,000?
I mean, 65,000 versus 6,000 is a huge ratio. So I would assume that just a percentage of that, meaning it could be like 5% of that, would extremely impact Google.
Yep.
Because the ratio
so
is
sorry,
just so much higher.
I have a trash guy here that's taking the trash away. Give me like 2 minutes. I'll be right back. So sorry. You can kind of continue on, but I gotta let the guy in the garage real quick. I'll be right back.
No worries. Yeah. So, I mean, the whole point of what I'm saying regarding, John's point is that yes, there are a lot of times where Google will work better or can work better at capturing demand. However, it's going to hit a wall a lot faster, and the rate of traffic that you're going to be paying for is going to be a lot higher. So, if, for example, I'm paying, $1 a click versus like, 10 cents a click, Meta versus Google, obviously Meta's going to have a lot higher scaling wall or a lot higher capability than, Google will have. So really the debate comes down to, okay, if we're looking at metrics like John was just showing, new versus return customers, or new versus return visits, we'll see that there's, for sure a situation where obviously in this scenario, Meta has way, way more new visits than Google, and even a small percentage of the new visits can potentially cross over. But I would say, and I would argue that Google's impact, meaning that if you start scaling Google first on a demand perspective versus Meta, you can capture demand faster than you can generate leads or generate conversions on Meta without testing creative. But when you get to the point to where you're saying, okay, I've capped out on the demand capture for Google, you're kind of at the scenario now where like, okay, I need, like, what else can I do to scale, right? And really the levers are not as strong on Meta or on Google as they're on Meta, right? You can change the entire messaging, the entire pain point, the entire audience on Meta and pay less, whereas on Google, you're more so stuck to like the keywords and like a finite sort of set of people each day based on the ebb and flow of the demand. You're not really generating that demand. There you go.
I missed all of that, but I'm back. Sorry.
Just going on a tangent about Meta versus Google on a cost per click basis, and
Gotcha.
the nature of Google being more demand focused, not as
Yeah.
much levers. Meta being more, I guess you can say, outbound focused, a lot more levers, a lot more ways that you can make Meta scale faster, and proven with these accounts time and time again.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very true. The kind of getting back to the mathematics of the whole thing of what we're looking at is I look at it here is we know that 86,000 for sure 65,000, but most likely 86,000 people visited your website out of 126 by seeing some sort of creative. And the creative that they visited was the ones that had good hook and hold, or one that had good hook rates and click through rates and engagement that brought them to the site that is in turn this 126,000. So when we're looking at this by saying, hey, 2/3 of all the people, basically 80 out of 120, 2/3 of all the people on my site have seen a particular creative. 2/3. Would you say that if 2/3 of all of your website traffic that has seen particular creative, is there any other channels that would be going after those people?
Oh, heck
Yes.
yeah.
Like, yeah. And so when we're talking about why is it like the John Google Ads guy kind of talking about meta creative all the time? And that's the reasoning is your Google Ads performance is also going to be heavily dictated by meta creative. And so when we're looking at this case study here and we said, hey, if I can chop off, 10% of the spend, but I can swap between much better creative. That was the thing that we noticed was a big change in our performance here is that the top line increase was massive just by shutting off the performance, shutting off the ads that have really poor performance, like really low hook rate, really low click through rate. The hold rate is low. I mean, basically all we're doing is trying to push more video. So by following the SOP in this campaign here, by doing the hook and hold rate, by focusing on 2/3 video, by focusing on everything that we've been kind of teaching, the result was actually fairly interesting. These here were created on the 9th. And that's what we're looking at here is the 9th through the 23rd. We had 659. So if we do 659, the time period before that, if we look at the 9th through the 23rd compared to the previous period, that's going to be the 25th through the 8th. And so the 25th through the 8th, if we look at 225, 125 to 28. Right. 25.8. Yep. We had 598. So 598 up to 659. So 659 minus 598. We add 61. Google, the cost since the 9th is 744. In Meta, the cost since the 9th is down 5,800. So we saved basically $5,000 and got 61 more new customers. The reason why we talk about the creative being such an important aspect of essentially all of what we're looking at is because that creative in Meta has helped Meta spend less. It helped Google spend more. It helped Google convert more. It helped us get more new customers. It helped us get more new customers at about $65 each cheaper NCAC. And now Google's working well. Meta's working well. We have new creative. We have new customer growth. We have scale. We have NCAC drop. Literally now all signs point to green. Good. Everything
all
is
from creative.
Good here. All just from Meta's creative. And all I did was I hacked off basically 15% of the spend. No spend here because these actually worked out pretty well. That's why you see the flat spend and actually an increase in purchases. And sometimes I think even new customer purchases 52. No, it only went down to 6 because everything else is being stolen from it. But it's actually after hacking up all the creative, here it says that I actually have 15. Okay, so I lost 9 purchases. How did I gain 60 new customers?
Again, more evidence as to why we don't look at ROAS or just the data inside of the platform, because it's going to confuse you.
So you spent 10% less and then made 5% less CPA? No, I actually increased your new customers by 60. So that's what's crazy is it's much less has to do with about the actual structure and more so about getting spend on the right creative. These other campaigns here haven't spent anything. Yeah. They spent maybe 70, 50, 300. They spent $450 on the 50 grand. This has nothing to do with the new creative. Yeah. Nothing to do with the new creative. So that creative that we have on right now is our catalogs.
So DPA.
That's the only thing that I need from that campaign. These are all essentially like kind of influencer ones. So they're all essentially their influencer. We're going to keep on this. So I said, we're going to keep these. We're going to make like an influencer style campaign and we're going to keep on these. Why? Because influencers actually, the partnership campaigns, the partnership ads in Meta work extremely well. They're actually the best performing ads that we have right now for the LA Famix company. And so what's interesting about this is if we can keep up a partnership ad, that is sort of like automated due diligence. So what we're seeing inside of other accounts, and I'll showcase this here for a moment.
Yeah, I feel like partnership ads are slept on quite a bit. They've been the best performers in every single account I've ran them in. Although I will say there's a bug. If you guys, just for people that watched the last live real quick, there is a bug with partnership ads on duplicating them into a test to where they won't actually run as a test. They'll just run as a duplicate because you can't copy the actual post ID over. So just wanted to throw that out there that you have to just do it the original way. You have to create it through the partnership section versus just duplicating it out and adding the post ID.
Yep.
So just throwing that out there.
Cool. These are partnership ads, Caleb. So you get a partnership ad that's on. And then you have the second one here, Caleb. It's also a partnership ad. These two ads here, what's interesting is this is actually what caused the catalyst to update all of our creative instead of LA Famix. Let's increase our MER from a 2 to a 4. So when we swapped over our creative to philanthropy, that was one thing that this told me is I said, I looked at all of the creative for like the last 6 months that the other agency just, blindly ran while they're sniffing glue, and essentially found out that all of their good performing ads that we have from like an all-time perspective. And I don't have this. Well, I think it might be in this campaign. Let me see. Yeah, like this has got like $22,000 in ad spend on it. These are not new ads. These are the old ads. The reason why I have them still, or the reason why I kicked up the ad spend more recently and started running them is because the hook rate's good and it's about philanthropy. And these are actually partnership ads. So another person telling our audience that this company is amazing because they have a lot of philanthropy and they help a lot of families and a lot of women in Thailand and yada yada yada. Because they do all that, these people are like, wow, this is a really cool company. I'm gonna start purchasing from them. And you can kind of see, again, we know that CPA is not indicative of actual performance, but when you're looking at peer sets, you have to glean that people probably like this content because they're clicking on it at least and it gets spend. So, and the frequency is fairly low compared to more remarketing style frequency. So I was like, well, if people like this and it's focused on philanthropy, then let's do that. And by changing around that creative, that's when we noticed that obviously everything started to get better because we said this is something that people could resonate with. So the new ads that we're running right now, when we look at the amount spent descending with the next ads that we just basically took old stock issue or old stock creative and then just refreshed it. It has a mention, stupid thing. I can't hear anything. Has a mention of philanthropy, like how they're hand woven and that kind of stuff. So we're going to say, hey, people like the philanthropy. But what we noticed is that when we said, okay, how is this ad doing? So we spent $667 on the new ad. These are running only for like the last week and a half. And we're like, how is everything going? So we say, okay, is hook rate good? Yes. 35% hook rate. Good. Is hold rate good? Yes. Hold rate is good. Good. Now, what are they seeing? And then we say, okay, this is the first scene and we lose 80% of our audience here. And what do we show them? Well, we showed them a cool hammock. Then we showed them a cool hammock somewhere else. And then we said it's hand woven. Okay, well, that's after we lost 80% of the people. Right. Yeah. And then we said, okay, now what's the next thing that we're looking at? Well, 29%. So good hook rate. Yes. Good hold rate. Yes. Good spend. Yes. Good CPA. Yes. Okay. What are we showing them? Well, cool hammock. Cool hammock.
And then gone.
Cool hammock with a puppy. And now that we've lost 88% of our audience, did you know that you can actually pack this thing up and take it with you? Yeah. Well, holy shit. Maybe don't wait until 8 people of 10 people leave the room before you give me that fun fact.
That's a really good point. That's crazy. It's like happens perfectly. And that could be the make or break of an entire business. So that creative could be perfect. It's just too long in the beginning.
Yep. Yeah, we said, what did you say? He's like, do you see my hammock? Yeah. Do you see my hammock? Yeah. Do you see my hammock? Yeah. Do you know you could pack it up and bring it to the beach? Well, that's cool. Why the fuck were you wasting time telling me about that? Did you see the cool hammock 3 times? That's sort of how we have to look at this. Yeah. It's pretty cool, though. It works well.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep. So that's what we're basically doing is each week we're looking at the stuff that's new and the stuff that's still running and saying what are people agreeing with. You can see that this is a lot of the same repurposed content. We're not doing too much different. We're just doing as much different as we can to continually iterate so we can get more new, fresh traffic for the same cost or cheaper. We still haven't increased the ad spend, but everything else has gotten much better since we've been doing this. So we're going to obviously keep on doing it. But it is interesting.
And would you say, based on this information, because I mean, we're in a world where people are not going to want to watch an entire ad, right? Like people just don't. I mean, some people will, but majority of people are not going to watch an ad all the way through. And typically people will put the call to action further towards the end of the ad, or in this scenario, the value prop, maybe even towards the middle of the ad. And that's still too late. So would you say that the hook and the value prop have to be pretty much aligned and be sort of in like that first like couple seconds, because you want to first get the question answered, but then also have the hook of like, hey, this is like something different. How do we showcase that right away versus just here's a hammock?
Yeah, you sort of have to say like, hey, if I'm going to show you something cool and you're going to agree that it's cool, is it the first time I'm showing you the ad or is it the second time? And unfortunately, the answer is we don't know.
Gotcha.
So then at that point, oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, sorry, I'll finish this real quick. So at that point, then you're saying that maybe you want to have a bunch of different ads, and each ad has different variations or different value props that are sort of tied in with the hook. So then people will see this ad once, then they have the opportunity to see another ad, and then Andromeda can kind of pick the audiences out based on the value prop and the hook that people see right away.
Right. It's almost like it is. So kind of back up a little bit, because to evaluate the creative, we have to say, like, what is this creative going to be doing? And do we believe that that creative is supposed to do that job? Like when I said, hey, we changed our theme to philanthropy. So when we changed our theme to philanthropy, we looked at every single ad and we said, people love the philanthropy. Is this showing the philanthropy early enough? We said, no, it doesn't seem like it is. And we said, okay, well then we got to make a change, because if we can't show philanthropy early and often, then we shouldn't be running this ad and showing 3 hammocks in the matter of 10 seconds. Now, if the goal of this was to have a showcase ad about where you can use your hammock at the beach or on the porch or in the field or wherever it is, then this ad is perfect. Nailed it. But so that's the thing, is like, is the purpose of this ad what? Well, that's what we have to have as a purpose, and that purpose has to work, because if we don't have a purpose for the ad, we don't know if the theme's working or not. So we say, hey, this is a reel and explainer. Okay. So you have to have a hook rate, right? You probably should have a good hold rate. And if you don't have a good hold rate, you better have a good click-through rate. If you have neither, you can hook them, but you're not explaining anything with the explainer, because no one's there while you're explaining things.
Yeah, it's almost more important just to I would rather take a lower hook rate with an actual message getting across versus just a really good hook rate and then people fall off.
That's exactly right. So it's almost like, if you say, hey, should we get rid of the founder story because it doesn't have a good hook rate? No, just make the founder story have a better hook rate.
Sounds simple.
Yeah, well, it's funny, but it's like you absolutely can, because if you said, hey, I made 15 different variations, all starting with a different hook, and none of them worked, it's like, well, are you selling dog shit in a box? Because that should have worked.
True.
All I'm saying is I go through the SOP kind of thing before we say, it did or didn't work, because sometimes we'll find out that it does. Cool.
Sweet. That makes sense.
Awesome. All right. Let's do this here. Okay. For another topic that we can discuss, is there anything else? What other topics that I know that we talked about creative? We can keep going on the creative. I just want to make sure that we're not just kind of making an hour long. I'm going to lull people to sleep with my voice.
No, well, I think that, I mean, it's crazy because like we had this conversation before the call where like we're kind of saying like the same thing on the algorithm side again and again. And we're trying to go more into the creative side of it, because the creative is going to have a larger impact on the business than the algorithm. But you have to understand the algorithm to understand the creative. So it's kind of like a caveat that kind of branches to everything else. So, I mean, in short, and I don't think people realize like how important this is, like, you dropped down the spend and you increased the overall sales by 30%.
Yeah, and new visits.
This is not a common thing. Like, I don't like that's why I'm like, it's crazy. And at that point too, I think people are trusting Andromeda a little too much to where they're just kind of letting it do it at once. And I mean, you're in the scenario where it's just splitting budgets too much across creative. Something as simple as pausing the creative and going to the SOP doc in the school group, saying, okay, start here. What parameters are you looking at to pause the creative? You didn't really add in any creative. You just paused creative, reduced spend, 30% more sales. Like, what the heck?
And that's, well, increasing that hook rate 120% was a godsend. Once that hook rate jumped 120%, then all of a sudden it was like, oh, well, now we're all set. Crap. I'm sorry. The one dude's got to get paid real quick. I'll be right back again. Sorry, everybody. Appointment showing up all over the place. Give me one moment. I'll be right back.
All good. I'll answer a question, then we're going down it. But are this not the people who was already in the sales cycle? I mean, potentially. I mean, the whole thing with the sales cycle is that like you could argue, if we were to assume that all of these people are in the sales cycle and this is 100% like people that are aware of us, which probably is the case with Meta's sticky audience. If you don't know what that is, I'll cover that in a second. Then even with that being said, this was a period of time that is greater than the sales cycle that this has gone across. Like we're not seeing a decay happen. And so if I were to say, oh, we had like a couple days of really good sales and it dropped off and there's a little bit of a delay with the spend drop, yes, totally agree with that. But this has been consistent growth over that period of time, and the correlation was a better hook rate. And that better hook rate, in addition to that as well, too, could coincide with the fact that those people that were in the sticky audience or the Meta's, audience of like people that were aware didn't actually get to see the full concept of the actual business, whereas now they're seeing the full concept of the business and now they're converting. So they could have been in impressions, but now they're moving into like action. So there's kind of two ways you can look at that, but I would say that that's probably the main cause of that. Sorry, I was answering the question. We were gone.
Oh, I was gonna say I missed what we're doing, but I'm going through Q&A or doing a question.
Just did a quick question while you were gone. That's all.
Cool. Sounds good. Yeah, and it's interesting. Like I used to be able to see a lot of structural changes in the account really move the needle. Like, whoa, we started search, and that actually you saw like an impact. You saw an actual movement. You saw like signs of life. And now we're like, okay, then now that search is on, it's like now we're like, okay, now we started search and we spent like 50% more. And it's like we lost 10%. Like what happened? Like, okay, now we doubled the ad spend in Meta. What happened? We only gained 10%. It's like what is going on? Like why is things feel so funky? And I honestly think that attribution, both in platform and third party, and even first click CAPI import, attribution is like the culprit. That's one of the things that's really just like killing us here. And so that's why I think we've been taking an approach of looking at this from a different angle. Like, is it the creative? Is it the structure? Is it warm traffic? Is it cold traffic? Even so much to the fact that I know the reason why, and let's get tinfoil hat. I know the reason why this happened here.
I love the tinfoil hats.
I know, right? Like this part right here, that is insane. This is a broken clock measuring the same thing, and it has measured that for 4 years. So it's the same broken clock for the last 4 years, measuring the same metric for the last 4 years. This has not changed in 4 years, 2022. I think it maybe even 2021. I can't remember. I think Norbeam was 2022. So is this 1080? I have no idea. But I know that it could be 2000, it could be 500. But I know that it is up 5%. That I know is true. What it measured before is now measuring 5% more of what it was measuring before. What I do know is that we did spend 50% less inside of Meta. Like that's what I know for sure. So it is, how did we get that? Why did my ECPNV, my effective cost per new visit, drop 52%? This was the biggest aha moment. That was basically like saying, hey, if you have better creative, you're going to have a better quality score, and your CPC is going to be cut in half. Now, your conversion rate, though, is not going to change. We're just going to charge you 50% less for the traffic that we were going to give you anyway, or that you were not going to get. I don't know which one that is. Did we get 52% less cost of who we were going to get anyway, or did we get someone new that we previously were not allowed to talk to because our campaigns were not set up for proper engagement? And if that is the case, is that, I guess I would say, is like what, how do I describe this?
Repeat your last thought. Maybe I can help you.
Yeah, because I started to go, I'm like, well, maybe there's a better way to explain this. I think it is basically just like quality score.
Yeah.
I think I think that is it. Yeah. And
did CPMs drop?
That's a good question, actually. I don't know.
Let's double check that.
Let's see. This was, oh my God. Okay,
you're gonna have to go way.
I don't even know if I have CPM. Hold on. I not click that? No.
Yeah, that was weird. I saw.
I was like, I thought it
went away.
I mean, 28 to 24. So definitely not 50%, but better.
That's decent, but yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
I got a little bit better, but yep.
And then if you go back to, I'm curious, go back to the Northbeam view again, real quick, if you can.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So
Like the
engagement just
February
went
6th,
up.
12,
CPMs just dropped based off of engagement, most likely. So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of compounding. Because new
Yeah.
visits is like your click-through rate, essentially. So
Right. And then that's what I was looking at. I was like, I think from a CAC is down a little bit, MER is up a lot. But we actually did lose 7% in sales. So that's what's interesting is like we saw a little bit more new visits. We did lose a little bit here. We gained more here. I think also because the people were Googling the brand name at a high amount because brand shot to the moon as soon as we started increasing the ad spend to the good proper creative on Meta.
yeah.
But yeah, it's I know this is true here because I know that we also we spent a whole lot less, not spent a whole lot less. We saw a whole lot less clicks inside of Google, but we saw the performance drastically increase. It's like here's 1,000 ROAS. We're like, thanks, Performance Max. So of course, Performance Max is going to do this. That's why a channel like did Performance Max get 81% more? No, it just was everywhere that these users were also. Like that's all that tells me is it just was really good at targeting the people that are doing demand capture. But it had nothing to do with what we did on Google. We didn't do anything on Google.
Yeah, demand doesn't just spike up like that.
Yeah, the effective cost per new visit actually went up 65%.
Yeah. So it's just compounding effects. Click-through rate got better, CPMs got cheaper, and
Yeah.
that translated to better messaging, which the platform rewarded, which also in turn rewarded the business by generating more revenue for less cost. So
Exactly right.
yeah, compounding. I think it makes sense though. It's interesting that the algorithm's a little bit low or slow to do that though. Like I would think that the algorithm would just prioritize all spend towards the best hook rates and the best like engagement versus like trying to spread it across multiple ads still. Even though it's better than what it was previously, it still is kind of in that's still like a fault of the algorithm.
Yeah, and I wonder if the algorithm is actually basing it off of, it's a rolling dynamic who's online. Like we think about these things also like the fact that these people are, not humans, like they're just bots that we're trying to like attract with cookies.
Yeah.
And I think also too that we have a cyclical rate of users. So someone could come back in 6 weeks later. Meta's going to choose a different ad for that person than someone that's never seen us before. So, or a person that comes back 3 days later is going to potentially choose a different ad than a person that is brand new today or a person from 6 weeks ago. So it's the importance that kind of going back to the beginning of our call, like when we're talking about what sort of creative do we need to have or what sort of creative focus should we have, is if we have a really well built out sales pitch as all of our pieces of creative, or if we've done like the Wally fat people treatment where we've taken the landing page or the hook or the actual video and everything and put it into ad copy, or we're using the Andromeda where we're like just doing a massive amount of stuff, whatever the process that you're going through that may be, that is in order to try to get this thing increased in the efficiency. We do have to remember that the creative is typically what is seen the most out of all the channels just because it has the highest amount of impressions. So that typically is going to cause a lot of angst in your company if it's not performing well. But I do think that the overlap of everything is so you know what? I think I have a better job of explaining this. This is how it works in my brain. The problem is I can't explain it well enough.
Paint.
That
Please be paint.
It's got to be paint. It has to be paint.
Yes.
So I love this part here because we're going to use this audience here. This is going to be the red audience. The red audience is going to be and I have to change my color of that now. This is going to be warm traffic. Okay. We're going to put this one over to the side. And then we're going to make another square. And this one's going to be, in green. And this one is going to be, this one's going to be the cold traffic. And we'll make this one black. Here we go. So cold traffic. This is, I think, the perfect way for me to kind of like think about it in my head. Now, just imagine that these are both the same size. They're not, but just pretend that they are.
One's a little fatter than the other one, but that's okay.
Right, exactly. Right. So if we have warm traffic and cold traffic on both sides, then we have to think about it like this. Let me do this here.
I have no idea where we're going with this, so I'm actually really curious to see what you're going to explain.
Meta spending $5K a day. This is Google spending 5K a day. Okay. Now, if you have, I'm going to draw a red kind of cone and a green cone. And then we have to draw the same green cone. And then we have to draw the same red cone. Oh no, green. There you go. Red now.
Beautiful.
All right. What channel won?
We don't know.
Perfect. This is what my brain sees when people are like, well, what should I increase spend on Google to? My brain goes, well, what's the overlap of cold versus warm traffic and how much could it be attributing anywhere else? Now, if we look at this and let's make this a little bit smaller and grow this thing a little bit bigger. If the spend levels inside of Google, or no, inside of Meta, I would say this one's Meta spend is at 5K. And Google's is at, like, let's say 7,500, 5K and 7,500, then Google is probably bringing in some more traffic than Meta, potentially, just depending upon the CPCs. Now, if you flip this, if this is Meta spending 7,500 and this is Google, Google now has to be warmer than Meta, simply because Meta dollar for dollar will bring in more traffic. So now we look at this and say, okay, here's the important part. At any point in time, most often Meta is cheaper than Google for your new visit. It barely is right here, but most of the time Meta is much cheaper for a new visit than Google. Rather than wait for Northbeam, let's just keep going. So if you had equal 5,000, 5,000, your actual proportion of users on your site could be Meta and Google.
You're an artist, John.
There we go. Meta. And then this is Google. Okay. So this could be actually with $5,000 in spend each.
Gotcha. So that's the audience size.
Exactly right. So now we're saying, wait a minute here. If we're spending, and I don't even know if we are, because we spent 40 grand to 4 grand. It's like, wow, look at the 15 myrrh. Yes, because this isn't doing anything. Actually, that's a good, well, this is exactly perfect. Ta-da! Let's just do that. So obviously 40 and 4 and 17 and 3. This is spending 10 times more, not getting 10 times more, but it is getting a good amount. This is also performance max and brand, which is why it's small. But if you have 17 and 3,600, even if these were closer aligned, you would still have more Meta than Google when you're talking about cold traffic. So if you change your creative, you could potentially be affecting 75% of all website traffic user, sentiment. So by changing the creative 75%, or changing your creative on Meta, 75% now potentially of all website traffic now has a different sentiment. The look, the feel of what they think about you at that time is different.
And that could be traffic coming from Google as well, too. So let's not forget that. So like for whatever reason, if someone Googles your brand name or Google's Hammock, then they see an ad on Facebook, they don't like that ad. Now they see a different ad. Now, okay, sweet. Now they want to buy the product.
Right.
And that's just the Meta sticky audience that we've talked about.
Right. And so that's where we have to look at things and say, okay, is this, when we're looking at it from this point of view here, if we have 50-50 spend, but we have more Meta traffic than Google, and Google and Meta are going to remarket all traffic on the site, but 75% of those people saw a particular creative, now you can start to see how creative can technically affect 75% of all of your website traffic, which means 75% of all of your brand's revenue. Now explaining this way, does it make sense where it's like you could technically have sometimes 50-50 spend, but the traffic that you're going to drive, even from a CPM perspective, let's just do this here. Let's do CPM because that's how we pay for things. I don't even know what it is here, but let's just do my CPM, average CPM. We already know in Google it can be 20, 30, 40 bucks, somewhere around there. Let's just see what this one is in here. Okay. So we spend $27 in a CPM here. Now, search campaigns that are doing the majority of cost, 16,000, has a $319 CPM.
Holy moly.
Because of search.
Yeah, higher intent.
Right. Now, if I go actually over to a different company, like let's just say, let's do this. Let's go to Vermont Glove. Vermont Glove is only running standard shopping and a search. Their CPM is $22. Now it's $13 on shopping because shopping also has a massive amount of traffic, but it's $259 in search. So when you say Google CPMs, if you give me $250, I can hit 1,000 people on search. Well, if you give me $250, I hit 1,000 people on search. How many people can I get? Well, however many I can get for however much it costs. But I'm not impressing anybody with an inbound search on an ad. I'm not changing your mind. If you look for leather glove, I'm not like, whoa, have you seen this company? It does A, B, C, D. It's like, it's got this thing. Have you seen what it looks like after 1,000? You can't get that from an inbound search. So those impressions, those CPMs are dead. They're non-brandable CPMs to your business, especially everything you're spending in search. So that's why when you're looking at $5,000 a day, $5,000 a day, if I can get $20 for 1,000 people or $250 just to get it, $1,000 worth of time of clicks, that's why majority of the traffic on your site is being shown ads that Meta, the Wally fat people, you can teach me. Google cannot teach me. Google, actually, that's a great saying. Google cannot teach your users anything. Google can't teach them anything.
That sounds so wrong. Because people Google stuff to learn stuff, but the ads aren't going to teach them nearly as much.
Right. Search and shopping, Performance Max remarketing is not really teaching. Meta is teaching. Hi, have you heard about my product? No. But if I heard about your product and I'm searching for it and I already probably know who you are and I've even seen you and I ignored you on inbound search. So that's the difference in CPM. I can ignore you on Google CPM. In Meta, I can't. I mean, you can, not if you have good hook rates.
Yeah. And that's
what we think about, like,
more so.
Exactly. So when we talk about like Google's dying, and then my next question is, how's your creative on Meta? Now you understand why. Kind of a cool thing is, as long as we can understand that the majority of the people on our site or even on Amazon or in our email during this time period that we're looking at, the last 30 days, has heard specific messaging, we can sort of tie that to performance. That's as hard as it gets.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, and another thing too I want to bring up real fast, and I know we kind of talked about it, is with the creative, it is middle of funnel as well. It's not just top of funnel. Like Meta is not purely cold. It's colder, but it's not cold. Right. So that's one of the things to where, yeah, like we were just saying, there's an audience that's already warmed up inside of your pipeline. You're going to convert them if they were going to convert before because they just didn't know about a feature of your product. So
right, exactly.
And in full transparency too, I had a client that just offboarded because we wouldn't be able to go and explain the product more. They just wanted to stay on shopping. When in reality, we're like, the product looks the exact same. Like product A looks the exact same as product B on the shopping network when you see it, but the price structure is like the product's way more expensive versus this product looks the exact same. But the reality is there's these features and benefits that people are unaware of. And so the whole idea was like, let's push towards Meta. Like we need creative to explain the differences between this versus just relying on people clicking on the ad and then finding out. And they just didn't want to do that. So I had to let them go. But it was just one of those things where it's like, you have so much more leverage inside of Meta to convey the messaging. Whereas in Google, you're like, you have one product image or you just have, the headline and like some text to explain what you're doing. And people don't even read that all the time. They just read the first quick line. It's like, oh, that's the brand logo. Yep. Click and boom. Good. Going.
That must be it. Right. Yep. Exactly. Right.
So super important to invest into the messaging, which sounds obvious, but yeah, it's just one of those things where you just have to kind of bite the bullet. If you're at that loss and you're going down, you want to make sure that you can, at least attempt to change the messaging, because then you have impacts like this where you're like, oh, I trimmed the budget down like 50% and I got 30% more sales. Yeah. What the hell?
Yeah. I think the thing also that we have to take into consideration too is how I describe this as well now. I'm trying to be very concise with my words, so I'm not just rambling on. By sticking to that SOP, by really looking at it, I feel like a lot of times I'll create an SOP and I think like some people are like, oh yeah, I have that. But like no one really looks at it that much because it's kind of like, wow, it's a 4-page PDF kind of thing. Like what's fun about it? I have not had one time where I followed that model and it failed. Not once. And that's because it focuses on that creative. I know creative is not fun, it's not sexy, it's not technical, and it's not data, and it's kind of like, I don't
hey,
even
I
know if
think it's
people are gonna
fun.
like it. You do, right. Most media buyers don't become a creative person. They stick to the media buying. And the creative people don't become media buyers, they stick to creative. And I think that's where like being able to marry those two is the name of the game. And by looking at the standard operating procedure and say, do I have 2/3 of all my creative be video format? Are they in even the right dimension in the format? Am I deploying them properly? Is it getting ad spend? Does it have a good hook rate? We saw that we can get a good hook rate in Vermont Glove and actually hurt the company because it was the wrong ad. So good hook rate. Step 1, get a good hook rate. Got a good hook rate. Step 2, on the right ad. No. Okay, so it's not just like, oh, Johnson hook rate wins all. No, you get a hook rate on the ad that you need to get the hook rate on, and all of them need hook rates, which is why in the SOP we say make 12 ads only, not 88. So I think if we look at that SOP, try to follow it to as much as we possibly can, you can probably see a massive improvement in Google just by doing this on Meta first. Like that's kind of the correlation we've seen now, that spend on Google and spend on Meta do not equal the same amount of actual users. And then even more so disconnected, doesn't even, you can't measure the impact of Meta advertising pre-click. It's immeasurable. So when you can get some branded searches in and some direct traffic and some email signups, but that's the groundswell you feel. But that's also coming from a platform that is charging ahead. So charge ahead accordingly. Like if you look at your Meta account this last week, sort descending by spend and say, would I made the conscious effort to spend 91% of all my money on that ad? If the answer is no, Meta's running your business, not you.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Impressions, can't track them. Only have to look at top line to see what the effects are. So
yeah,
but you can track hook rates. So use what you have available when it comes down to. So
exactly right.
Sweet. I think this was a good one. This was kind of building off the last conversation we had. So that's awesome.
Yeah, fun stuff, right?
Yeah, I still can't believe the fact that spend half the amount, increase the overall sales by 30%. I don't know. I've never seen anyone else do that on YouTube at all, ever. And this stuff does not happen often. It's like normally it's like, okay, we drop it 50% and I'm freaking out if the revenue holds or it gets like 5% better. I'm like, oh my God, amazing. We just like increase the efficiency by 50%. Holy crap. That's like,
it's funny.
Worth gold.
Yeah, and it's always weird too, because it's like all we actually did in the if you don't look at spend, the only thing we did is we actually just brought in like 5 and 10% more like new traffic. That's all we did.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It is crazy. So I always say whenever it comes to traffic, it's not going to change your business, but you get some instances like this where the creative changed the business, but you can see that in the traffic. So just wild.
Exactly. Yeah. The creative is right now in your digital business. You have to look at where the majority of people came from and talk to them accordingly.
Simple as that.
It's easy peasy now.
Sweet. Cool. Well, thanks, Sean. Thanks for hopping on, giving us more insights, and sharing that awesome case study. Hopefully you guys can take that information and run with it. If you're in the school group, SOP's in there. Kind of go through that checklist. At the very bottom, there's like a chart that gives you the reference points to say if the hook rate's this, or click the rate's this, frequency's this, amount spent's like roughly around this. Then yeah, you can kind of better understand exactly what to optimize. So anyways, thanks again, guys, and we will see you in the next live.
Sounds good.